Здравейте! Здравейте на всички! Понеже все още има влизащи, ще използвам времето да се представя. Аз съм Светомира Дачева, част съм от маркетинг екипа на Клет България и днес ще бъда технически съпорт на срещата. Този вебинар е последната среща от поредицата, която подготвихме в партньорство с езиков изпитен център АВО за учителите от учебните заведения, членове на асоциацията. Днес отново с нас ще бъдат Албена Витанова и Уитни, за да продължат темата за оценяване на учениците по критериите на Кембридж, която започнаха предишния път с спикинг частта. Днес ще говорят малко повече за райтинг частта. За тези от вас, които не са присъствали на предишната среща, накратко ще представя нашите лектори. Албена работи като учител по английски от почти 30 години, като тя преподава различни видове курсове, като ASP, бизнес английски, подготовка за Кембридж изпити и е обучител към от много години. Пол също така е учител по английски от 25 години, като 15 години в България. Преподава на различни видове ученици с различна възраст и нива. И също е обучител на учители в АВО. За да не отнемам повече от времето на нашите лектори и ще им дам думата и ви желая успех.
Thanks, Sveti. Hi, everybody. Hi, everybody. Let me just share the PowerPoint. Yeah, we're looking at assessing level B1. Preliminary is the name of the exam, and connected with Cambridge, the Cambridge exam suite. Okay, and the aims are basically just to get a better understanding of how we assess the writing according to Cambridge criteria. So we'll start with that. We'll look at the criteria. Then we'll practice, we'll go into detail with Albena. Albena will tell you about exactly what these criteria consist of, how they are worded. Then we'll go on to a practical stage. We'll look at some students' writing and we'll apply the criteria. Okay. We'll be using chat box. Okay. I know there's a lot of you, but don't be afraid to communicate with us using the chat box. Okay. We would like some feedback from you. All right. So yeah, people are using the chat box now already. That's how we're going to be communicating today. All right. And at the end, the idea of the session, the second half at least, is to standardize. Let's see how far we are in line with Cambridge. I have the grades, I have all of the grades that Cambridge have given to the writing, and we can compare our grades and see how close or how far off we are. All right. So the first, just a second, what's the aims? So let's have a look. The first task, let's start using the chat box. What criteria do we usually use when we assess written material? Now, I'll get in the next slide, if you have it, please don't look at it. There are four, actually. Cambridge use four criteria. I would like you now, don't be shy, to write in the chat box, what do you think the four assessment criteria are? Okay, I will give everybody a minute to type in the chat box. You can send it to everyone. And let's get some feedback. What are the criteria when you mark written material? Okay, so I'm waiting for your feedback. Yeah, good. So what we have here, let me, if anybody's still writing, please send, that's fine. What do they do in Cambridge? Well, they got four criteria. First one is content. Yeah. Maybe somebody was talking about topic, relevance, things like this. Yeah, you'll look at this with Albena in a second. Content. What's the topic of the writing? Communicative achievement. You'll see in a second with Albena that this is connected a lot with you can think about the effect on the reader. This is very important when you're marking writing. What's the effect on the reader? Okay. And this includes style, things like that. You will see in a minute. Some people mention, I didn't see anybody mention paragraphs actually, but organization, it's not just paragraphs, it's also sentences, linking them, you'll see in a minute with Albena. Organization is the other one. And the last one is language. Now, some of you guys, you put separate grammar and vocabulary. For this level, for B1 level, we just put them together. Yeah, we don't separate anything. We put language includes vocabulary, grammar, punctuation, spelling, all of these things that you mentioned. The richness. Somebody mentioned, a couple of people mentioned richness, variety. These are in here. Okay, so this is the introduction. Those are the four came, and this is how we're going to mark it. Okay, when we come to the marking stage, I would like you to follow these four criteria. Okay. All right, Albena, over to you. You can go into a bit more detail
Thank
about
you.
this.
Yeah, as Paul said, we'll look at these in more detail. Oh, sorry, not this one. By the way, we'll give you the link to the handbook for teachers, and you'll be able to find lots of useful information there. Very detailed information about the descriptors, the criteria, plus you'll find lots of classroom activities, things that you can do with your students directly into your classrooms. So just a second. So, as Paul mentioned earlier, we have the four big categories: content, communicative achievement, organization, and language. I believe you can see them on the screen now. And those of you who were with us on the previous webinar, we talked about the different bands that Cambridge gives to students. So what we have here is band 5. Next to it, we have detailed descriptors of what a student needs to show to deserve a band 5. Then we have band 3, which is the key band, because if a student scores band 3, it means that the student is definitely a B1 student. Everything below band 3 means that the student still has not acquired the necessary writing skills for the level. And something that we've mentioned on the previous webinar, if a student is given band 5, it means that this student is actually at the higher level, B2. So if such a student, for example, decides to sit a B2 exam, they will pass it. With band 3, indeed, but again, they will pass it. So we are mostly interested in band 3 because this is the key band. It shows if a student indeed is at the right level, B1 in our case. Now, unlike speaking, Cambridge doesn't give half points when it comes to the different categories and bands. So if you want to give a student something like a band 3.5, that is not possible if we follow the Cambridge rules. Band 4 and band 2, we use them when the student shows some things from band 3 and the higher one, band 5. In those cases, we'll give a band 4. Band 2, again, means that the student has some parts from band 3 done well, but also some of the things are more connected with band 1. So following such criteria definitely gives us lots of advantages. We feel more confident knowing that, yes, we've given the student a band and we can justify our band. So if a student asks you, why did you give me band 4 for content? You can show the criteria and say, okay, you cover some parts from band 5, but there is something missing. So that's why your band is lower. The categories sound good, but sometimes we are maybe not quite clear what they actually mean. And now I will ask you to look at the separate categories. We'll do them one by one. And I've bolded some key words. We'll look at the content category first. If we look at band 5, it says all content is relevant to the task. So what does it mean? What is relevance? Some of you headed earlier in the chat, you said that it should be connected with the topic, with the context. Yeah, that will be relevance. Whatever the student has written is indeed directly connected with the task. Very often, tasks ask students to include a couple of things. Did they include all that information? Is the answer complete? Does it follow all the requirements of the task? Then, as Paul said, the reader is very important. Somebody will read the text. And it's not just us, the teachers, right? Students need to imagine the person who will be reading their email, for example. Is it a friend? Is it another teacher? And the target reader actually means the person who the text is intended for. Now, if we look at the descriptors for band 3, as we see, there might be some irrelevancies. Maybe some of the information is not connected with the task. There might be some omissions. Maybe the student has forgotten to answer one of the points in the task. The reader, however, again will be informed, not fully informed as with band 5, but generally, on the whole, the target reader will be informed. And different tasks indeed have different requirements. Sometimes the questions do not need much development. For example, if the student has to say what they did during their holiday. But sometimes questions need to be developed by students, especially if the question says describe a past experience or explain why people do certain things. Band 1, if a student is given band 1 for content, it means that there are lots of irrelevancies, or maybe the student has misunderstood the task. They wrote something, but it's probably on another topic. Content is generally easy to mark. Now, usually we are not quite sure about the so-called communicative achievement. I'm happy because the very first person who contributed in the chat put down communicative achievement. And yeah, it refers to the use of the so-called conventions of the communicative task. And we'll look at what this means. For band 3, again, the conventions have to be used, and the student is able to communicate straightforward ideas. Not brilliantly, but to a pretty good extent. In band 1, we see that no conventions are mentioned. So yeah, it is a text, but it doesn't follow any writing conventions. And the ideas are very, very simple. Now, let's see what these mean. You have some numbers next to the bolded words. And on the right, you can see some definitions. I will ask you to put down your answers in the chat. What does the conventions of the communicative task stand for? Is it A, B, or C? Can you do the quick matching and share your answers in the chat? Okay, so we have B for number 1. Absolutely, and that is the correct answer, Luca. Good. So when we talk about conventions, we mean, is that the right genre? Is the format okay? Is the register appropriate? Is it formal or informal, depending on the task? And also, do we have the functional language that goes together with the task? If, for example, you have to write a letter, an email inviting a friend to a party, do we have such language? Language of invitation. Well done. So we have the answer for number 1. Now let's see whether somebody will be brave enough to tell us what straightforward ideas are. Yes. Okay, very good. Yeah, pretty straightforward ideas. So the subject is limited, the topic is limited, and usually we convey, express such ideas using a relatively simple style, relatively simple vocabulary and grammar. So obviously what is left for number 3 will be the simple ideas. They are typically expressed with a single word or just a couple of words. Like, again, if we think about emails, which are a very common writing topic, if you say, hello, Sam, that sounds like a simple idea. Okay, great. Now, we'll look at the category of organization. Lots of you mentioned it earlier. You used structure and organization. Yeah, that will be the organization of the whole text. And again, if we look at the descriptors for band 5, and remember, this is the very high band. It means almost a B2 level. The text is generally well organized. It is coherent. Lots of you used coherence earlier. The student uses a variety of linking words and cohesive devices. For band 3, what we expect from a B1 student, again, is something similar. A connected text, a coherent text that doesn't look like a couple of sentences put down. Again, we have some basic linking words used, and we have, even if limited, but still we have a number of cohesive devices. Band 1, which is below the pass level, yeah, the text is somehow connected, but we have only basic high-frequency linking words. And again, I'll ask you to do the same kind of matching task. What does it mean? Generally, C, absolutely, most of the time. So it doesn't have to be an ideal, perfect text, but most of the time it is well organized. Very good. Now, coherent, we already have an answer. Easy to understand because the ideas and sentences are well connected. Absolutely. That's what will make the text coherent. Ideas are connected. They are linked. For number 3, let's see if we have an answer for number 3. Basic linking words. We have lots of E's given. Some examples. Aha. Yes, I agree. Yes. E definitely gives us examples of linking words. Absolutely, that is okay. But Tonya has given us B as an answer. And yes, this is the more general definition of linking words. So they show words that show the explicit connection between ideas. And of course, and or because they're also linkers, but we can use some more complex, if you like, linkers, like finally, for example, in addition. But yeah, these are the linking words. They connect ideas. So let's say the correct answer will be B. And we can keep E for number 5. These are the high frequency linking words. And because so students use them most of the times, that's why they're called high frequency linking words. And now let's see what is left for cohesive devices. What's the missing letter? You can put it down in the chat. It is A, yes. Cohesive devices include the linking words, but they also, very good. Yeah, it is the A, great. Okay, lots of A's, good. But we have other things in the language that help us link ideas together. Pronouns. Does the student repeat the same name again and again, or does the student use he or the student. Substitution, again, instead of saying, give me the book, you can say, give me the one that is nearby. Substitution, relative clauses, again. So these are all the other devices in the language that help us connect ideas. And now, the last slide is a bit more challenging. Now, I'll ask you to put down the original word or phrase from the descriptor. And I've given you the definitions. And again, we can focus on number 1 first. Vocabulary, yes, absolutely. So the student uses a range of vocabulary. And Cambridge says everyday vocabulary, vocabulary that we use very, very often. And also the student tries to use another kind of vocabulary that is used less often. And as Cambridge says, it can be used inappropriately, but it's not such a big problem. It's good that the student tries to use what kind of vocabulary. If number idioms, good, very specific, great, absolutely. More special vocabulary, true. And Cambridge calls it less common vocabulary. But the student tries to use a higher range of vocabulary. Very good. Now, for Cambridge, language covers both grammar and vocabulary, so they don't give a separate grade for grammar and for vocabulary. We'll look at both. And something important, errors are okay. I mean, students are not severely punished for making mistakes, but the mistakes should not impede, they should not hinder communication. And again, if we look at the grammar descriptor, the student uses a range of simple and some complex grammatical forms, and they should use it with a good degree of control. But again, mistakes are not punished so badly. Then if we look at band number 3, can we complete gap number 4? Students use everyday vocabulary generally. Something like the vocabulary should be suitable. Can we think of a synonym? Appropriately. Yes, that's the answer. Very good. And occasionally, number 5, they do repeat the same words. So can we think of a synonym, if you like, of repeating the same words again and again? Occasionally repeating, yeah, absolutely. And Cambridge calls it overusing. So the student uses the same vocabulary, but it's a bit too much. And again, errors are noticeable, but can we think of a continuation for number 6? Yes, we have the correction. Very good. Absolutely. We can understand the meaning. So this is not such a big error, right? If meaning is still transparent. And now, unfortunately, for band 1, student uses something reasonably appropriately. So these are words that we need for basic survival, for example. Nothing special about that vocabulary. And Cambridge calls it basic vocabulary. So I hope that we kind of remember the 4 categories for sure. And now it's time to proceed with the practical tasks. But before that, I would like to draw your attention to another link. You will receive the presentation, the links. Cambridge has some lovely writing checklists. So again, they work with the criteria, with the descriptors, but this is something good because every time you check any kind of written task, you can have a quick look at the checklist and ask yourself, oh, does the student does it? Good. Does the student miss something? And you can change your grade. The checklists are also something very useful that you can use with your students in the classroom. So before they submit a writing task, they can go through the checklist and see if they have covered all these important things. And now, Paul, over to you again.
Okay, let's have a look.
Practical task.
Let's have a look at marking then. We're going to have a go at marking something. So first of all, I'm going to show you a task. Okay, this is the task. It's from the exam. This is a task from the B1 preliminary exam. It is an email here. Okay, you see it on the right. Let's familiarize it because we're going to look at some samples. We're going to look at 3 different students who are attempting to complete this email. Have a look at it then. If you read it now, I hope, can you see it? Is it a little bit small? Here it is here on the right. Just to sort of see if you're actually reading it, put in the chat box, if we look at it first an email, what genre is it? Look at the conventions. Albena was talking about the conventions. What style, what register will this be? Informal. Okay. Somebody's written informal. So who is writing to who? Now, this is something you have to get across to your students, okay? We have a student writing to their... Now, yeah, if you look at the chat box, we've got 2 different... we've got a student writing to a teacher. Now, I don't think we're talking about informal here. I don't think we're not talking about a friend to a friend. You know, there is a different level, if you like, a level of authority, let's say. I think it would be more of a semi-formal, possibly, we don't know the relationship, but probably more formal, you know, definitely polite. And this is where you have the communicative achievement, that Albena was talking about, you know. Also, what is it? It's an email, isn't it? So how should it be written? You know, what do we need at the beginning of an email? You know, what do we need at the end? Well, look at about the level of formality. When I show you Cambridge's marks, we'll have a look at it. We'll discuss it later. Yeah. Okay. So there we have the task. I'd like you to just in the chat box, how many things does the student have to include? Look at the task. You can quantify the number of things they must do. Yeah, somebody's immediately written. You can see here, and this is to help the students, you know. You can see here that you've basically got 1, 2, 3, and 4. Okay. You see those there? 4. Somebody wrote 4. This is connected to content. Yeah, like Albena was talking about content. So if you want to give somebody a high mark for this, all 4 of these should be mentioned. Okay? So we've talked about communicative achievement, the register, the formality. And now we look at the content. Does the person include all of these things? Now, let's have a look at the organization. Now, maybe, do we need paragraphs? You know, how are we going to link these concepts together? Another thing that Albena was mentioned is how far do you take the answer? So this one is pretty simple. That's great. An after-school film club. Look at this, explain. If the student says we can meet either on Monday or Friday, which one would you prefer? And the student writes, I prefer Monday. What do they need to do next? What do they need to say? They need to say why. Exactly. Thank you. People are reacting in the chat box. Good. Thank you. Yeah. Why? All right. So the first thing is I prefer Monday. Okay, that's good. That's task is kind of achieved. But the next step is why. So again, with these ones here, why? Which types of film would you like to see and why? This task here looks at, I want to provide some food and drink. Is this a good idea? Yes, it's a good idea. Why? Okay. So all of this you have to think about, you know, when you're grading it. Yeah, this is the grading. So let's move on to the grading. Now, I think actually, let me just, I've sent in the chat box. Can you have a look at the chat box? These numbers are just, it's not for the, it's just a number to, you can copy paste this. And I would like you, I'm going to show you a sample and I'd like you to write back to us, to everyone, with your numbers. Yeah. Okay, like the one I've just sent to you. You can copy paste it, yeah, like that. Okay, but you obviously you will have different numbers, probably. Now, this is just an example. All right. The other thing is, guys, you will need to take, we cannot send you in the chat box files. You will need to take a photo, yeah, a photo or a screenshot of this task. So, okay, now what I'm going to do now is I'm going to stop that and I'm going to show you a sample. Okay, ready? So, right, guys, here is your task. I'll give you not too long, up to 5 minutes. Look at this answer, look at the task, and send in the chat box your marks for content, communicative achievement, organization, and language. Now, let's have a look then. You've got your answers here. By the way, before we start this, before we start looking at the Cambridge answers, okay, is it a big problem if you write language 2 and Cambridge says language 3? Is that a big problem? I'll answer your question. No, there is no. There you are allowed. You are allowed to be one band off. Okay, it's not a problem. However, yeah, if there is more than one band, if you, for example, you think language is 2 and Cambridge thinks language is 4, then maybe there's something needs to be, needs to be thought about a little bit more. Do you understand me? Yeah. So don't worry. Nobody's going to check your answers. Nobody's going to, look. But think about this, about the official, you know, the official mark. Everything, though, is slightly subjective. When we mark writing, when we mark speaking, obviously we are being a little bit subjective. Let me stop my share here, and I'm going to show you the official Cambridge marks for this. Just a second. So here we have the task. You remember the task. Let's have a look at the answer. Okay, there we go. Can you see that? This is the first one that you have just marked. Okay. You will notice I didn't see anybody give a 5 for content. But if you look at that task, that writer, the student, has covered everything. Think about the criteria that Albena was showing you. The reader is fully informed. Okay? All of
Sorry, we do have a couple of 5s given for content.
Oh, were there? Sorry, yeah, sorry, Albena, yeah. Thank you.
Sorry.
Yeah. But that all of the points that we went through, the 4 points, have been covered. The reader, it's not a struggle to read and to understand what the writer is saying. So the target reader is fully informed. The word fully is there. And that's why Cambridge have gone high there with 5. Okay. We can't really have time for discussion. There's too many people, but it would be interesting to say why you gave only 4, for example. What do you think is missing? If you give 4, you have to say what's missing. Where are the omissions? Where are the irrelevances? Okay. But if you look at that one there, that is a pretty good. It fulfills all of the task. The content is full. Okay. This one, I'm a little bit, you had a lot of you, whoops, sorry, that's a bit messy. A lot of you had 4 for communicative achievement. I would agree with you. I think this looks like it looks like an email. The genre is there. The style, I think, is, it's formal enough. The formality is fine. Possibly what I don't like, maybe you don't like, I think they should start the email, at the top here. This is not really, maybe the name or something. It's not exactly the way you write an email. Good afternoon, Mrs. Rose. It's a little bit strange. But they have given 5. Cambridge, I think, if you read the comments there, we will send you this afterwards as well. You can read them by yourselves. But look at it. The conventions of an email are used. They're a separate. Look at that's the organization. Sorry. Okay. I just got your email. That's very nice, that is. I just got your email. Things like this, these are not normal for, bad writers, let's say. Yeah. Okay. So maybe 4 or a 5 for that. Organization. I think a lot of people had 4 for this one. You can clearly see it's organized well. It's split. You see that the way the task, the paragraphs follow the task. This is like introduction, first thing, second thing, third, fourth. They follow the task structure, so it's pretty good. Yeah. There is some cohesive devices. You can see what Cambridge have written. Lots of people are used to it. The person uses referencing, it, okay? Used to it. I think it would be great. They give both. This is a cohesive device. So paragraphs, cohesive devices, it's pretty easy to follow, isn't it? Now, language. This is a bit different. Some people had 2 here. Some of you had 2. All right. Cambridge have given 4. Now, why? Again, unfortunately, I can't really ask you to say why you put 2, but if you look at this email, there are not too many mistakes. Yeah. It's not, I think maybe the language is a little bit too high. I personally would be maybe more 3 or 3.5. You can't do that, but 4 is, I think, because of it's good. Look, it says there is a good degree of control. There's not many mistakes. It doesn't impede understanding. Yeah. There are some mistakes, really, like here, really don't mind. Okay, there's some mistakes here, but it's not something that is going to cause problems for the reader's understanding, comprehension. Okay. It's a bit repetitive. I, I, because the person doesn't use too many, they use because a lot. They use simple linking devices, but it's reasonably accurate. So you see that maybe the differences between Cambridge and your marking. Any comments? I mean, it's hard to have comments in the chat box, but yeah, I think what we'll do now is, and this will be easy. This will be interesting because how do we get better at marking? Well, we have samples. We look and we shouldn't really compare, but we naturally compare different students. So let me show you the next sample. It's the same task, but a different student. So I'm going to share it. Is it there on the screen? Yes. Sample answer 2. Again, the same thing. I think I'd like you to look at it, and I'd like you to give me the criteria, the content, communicative achievement, and I'd like you to give a mark. You should be a little bit quicker now because you've got used to the task and you've got used to the good. Yeah. Again, just check the chat box. You can see what other people have written. It's quite interesting. We've got a lot of 4 3 3 2. That's what we've got. Yeah. Seems to be the most common mark. All right. So, right, let me find so we've got this thing. Let me find what Cambridge saying. So again, remember it's slightly subjective, but this is what Cambridge would give for this person. So what do we have? Content 5. Again, I think everybody would agree this is worse. This email is not as good as the last one, but the content is still there. The target reader is fully informed. Yeah. I would disagree. I would give it a 4 for content. Why? Because look at this one about the popcorn. Yes, it is a very good deal. I am buying some popcorn and whatever. The person doesn't really say why, do they? Why is it a good idea? Yeah, in the first one, the first sample, they say why. Okay. Even in the second here, like my favorite type of film, okay, good. He or she, Clara, she says what she likes, but she doesn't really say why, you know? But they have given content 5. Now, this is the interesting thing. Communicative achievement, they have marked 2. Now, a lot of you had about 4 or 3. Now, why? If you read there, it's inappropriate convention. Cambridge don't like this. They don't think this email is formal enough. Now, this could be a cultural thing, right? This could be a cultural thing, but they think, I kind of agree with them, at least for the UK, you would not write to a teacher like this, especially an older teacher, kisses. This is not appropriate. And they have marked, look, 2. They have given a 2 for the communicative achievement. I think that's a little bit too harsh. I think it should be a 3, but they are not happy with this exclamation marks, kisses, write me soon. They feel that this is for a friend to a friend, Okay. That's my understanding of this. You can read the commentary. Okay. Organization, they've been very harsh on this one here. They see for me, this person has split into paragraphs. Okay, it's not that difficult to follow. They have split into different tasks. Like the first one is talking about Monday, then the type of films, good idea. They've split it. I find this at least something, but they have marked down on the cohesion. It's not cohesive. It doesn't make sense. Some of the sentences just finish. Okay. And they have given it a 2. And for language, they have been very harsh and they have given it 1. Okay. Basic, okay, some degree of control. The numerous errors and lack of control impede meaning. Yeah. So again, as Albena was saying, it's blocking the meaning. Okay, you can't understand. Look, I don't know the last sentence. I don't know. Were you buying? What does this mean? No idea. I don't have any problem to the film. Which film? For me, I don't have nothing. Do you like this day? This is quite incorrect, inaccurate English. Okay. So comparing this Cambridge's marks to yours, you'll see that yours were a little bit higher. I mean, if it's 4.332, all of them are a band upwards. I wouldn't be more honestly with you than Cambridge on this. I think Cambridge is quite harsh, but I think this communicative achievement, you need to understand this, that Cambridge do not, this is for Cambridge, this is a formal or semi-formal. It's not informal. Okay. So, yeah, that's something to be. Do we have time for one more? I think we do. Albena, did you want to mention anything at this stage?
No, I mean, it's good to compare ideas with samples like these or with colleagues, because if you feel uncertain about some things, that's the best thing. So just ask a colleague to have a look at the writing and ask for their opinion. Now, Cambridge is strict, but we're talking about international exams here. Otherwise, in our classrooms, very often we want to be more generous with our grades because we want to stimulate students and motivate them. If we are too harsh, probably will demotivate students. So, of course, these criteria are a very good kind of guidance, and we can follow them. But knowing our students, our classrooms, bearing in mind that they're not sitting an exam, most of them, I think we can be a bit more generous.
Yes, I think with this,
Yeah.
but when you get to the higher levels, when you get to, especially I teach a lot of C1 students, it's better for you to be more critical of their writing than not, because Cambridge is always, when I get the results back from my students, it's always, I think, oh, I thought they were better at writing. Cambridge is very often marks low on writing. So, but yeah, I agree with Albena that this one, for example, this one is quite harsh, I think, for this student. And this might demotivate the student if you gave them this grade 5221.
Yeah,
That would
and
be quite demotivating for the student, I think.
and one more thing, sorry, Paul, for interrupting you.
No.
For language, we agree this is not perfect, right? But if you give your students a band T for language, again, you show that they are below the B1 level. One sounds, I don't know, frightening.
Yeah, I mean, there are lots of mistakes, though. It's the number of
Oh,
mistakes.
yeah,
Another thing about writings is how long should it take you to read how many words is this? 100 words, is it?
yeah, around.
Wait a second. It's I can't remember. What's that? 100 words, I think, or something like that. How long should it take you to read 100 words? A minute, 5 minutes? No, it should take you almost nothing, almost like 10 seconds if it's written well. Let's have 1 minute. Okay, 1 minute max, absolute maximum. Now, if you're taking longer than this to process uh, a writing, then that means the writing is confusing, and that should be reflected in your mark because it's not.
You
Are there
have some
any
questions, you can
yeah,
share
I mean,
them, we can check it out.
there is another one, but maybe I will show it to you. There is one more, which you can. Where is it? This is the first one. This is the second one. We will send you this. But this one is another one which is kind of more in the middle, 5333. Okay. Um, and you can also, here it is here, you can have a look at it, maybe even but immediately, I don't like the organization. They give 3 for this, but where are the paragraphs? Where is the separation? To sum up, okay, you have Cambridge's marks, but as we said right at the beginning, you can be 1 mark, over or under, but 2 marks is too much. Yeah. So if anybody today had like 2 marks, 2 bands difference, you need to think about it a little bit.
Благодаря, Албена, и благодаря, thanks, Paul. А, Аз смятам, че колегите успяха да извлекат полезни съвети от срещата. Надявам се да е така. Ако нямате въпроси, предлагам да ви пожелаем хубава вечер.
Okay, bye everybody. Take care.
Bye-bye.
Take care.